The concept of working capital is important in mergers and acquisitions transactions. Under generally accepted accounting principles, working capital is as simplistic as current assets over current liabilities. And why working capital is important is because a buyer, when they're buying a business, they don't want to buy a business with the cupboards bare. They want to buy a business that they know has enough working capital to allow the company to be operated post-closing without the immediate need of an infusion of cash from the buyer. So the buyer, if you want to analogize to, buying a car, you'd like to buy a car with the tank full of gas as opposed to, the red line on the E and almost empty. Conversely, sellers don't want to provide a business that has too much cash or working capital in it. They want to have the benefit of their bargain. They want to be able to take the profits out of the business that they've generated over the time. And so typically what will happen is the buyer will come in and do a very, very close analysis of the historical performance of the selling business over a defined period of time. And buyer and seller will negotiate together what really a typical target working capital is in terms of, for a month or two of operations, how much cash and other types of working capital need to be in the business. And of course, post-closing, now that the buyer has actually had control of the business and has been able to really review all the books and records, they will now be able to make an independent determination as to whether the amount of working capital that the seller said that they were delivering at closing, in fact, was delivered at closing. In all likelihood, there are disputes post-closing where a buyer alleges that an inadequate amount of working capital was in fact delivered at closing. And so most mergers and acquisitions documents will have dispute resolution mechanisms. These types of dispute resolution mechanisms can be very, very complicated and technical, and it's important to engage legal counsel and accountants to make sure that they're structured properly. Working capital can typically be a very important component of the overall financial consideration that's provided between buyer and seller. We at Morse, Barnes, Brown & Pendleton are very involved in these types of transactions on a daily basis. We've negotiated numerous transactions with working capital adjustments. We have a wealth of experience in negotiating both buyers and sellers in drafting and properly negotiating working capital adjustment mechanics in mergers and acquisitions transactions.